Hello everyone, thank you for joining me on ReneLOVEnLIGHT, my YouTube channel. I just like to say thank you so much for those who subscribed and those who commented. I received some beautiful messages. I definitely like to say thank you and send a lot of gratitude, love and light to all of those people who have supported this journey, who have encouraged me to do this. Thank you for the email messages, because I got a few email messages and that was amazing what I heard. Know that what I do, what ReneLOVEnLIGHT is all about, is bringing that divinity, that spark within you to your awareness. That's all it's about. Take what you need, use what you need, share what you need, but it's all about empowerment. It is a communication between me, you, the divine, most importantly within yourself. So I got an email I wanted to touch on. I got an email from an individual who asked me to touch on the topic of self-love, and I want to thank you for that email. It really touched my heart and my soul. So let's have this conversation. One of the things I'm gonna do throughout some of my videos is read some of my readings, and I'm gonna share one with you today, and we're just gonna let it flow after I finish reading it and just see where we end up. Let's just let God work through this process. Let the divine express what is needed for whoever needs it. That's all we need. So this is my reading. Everything we do is holy. Our thoughts, words, and actions are all aligned to the divine. What we think, what we say, and what we do are manifestations of God. It is a creation with all that is. We bring forth the invisible divine into the visible. As we move about our lives, let us be examples of absolute truth. The truth of love. I bring forth the power of love. The essence of who we are is love. What we are is love. The essence of all is love. I shed all physical, mental, and emotional barriers that keep me from this truth. I am in the holy relationship of love. Thank you. That was a writing I did a few months back. And as you can see, I have a very strong belief that all that we do is love. There is absolutely nothing separate from that experience. Some can ask, well, how can you call a violent experience love? I can't answer that question specifically, but what I do know is that God is expressed in all. I truly believe at my core that love is the highest level, vibration, and frequency of what we call God, what we call divinity, what some may call the universe, what some say is spirit. How do we align to that? How do we find that self-love within ourselves? I think that some of the things in society have been placed out there, messages we receive in the media, messages we receive as we're growing up, tries to tell us what self-love is, what we need in order to have self-love. And I think that many times we go through life searching for something that's going to give us love, or searching for a person who is going to give us love and happiness. What I've come to find in my own personal experience is that that's not something anyone can give you. That is not something that you can go and buy in a store. That is not something that you can experience by doing drugs or alcohol. Self-love is a relationship with yourself. Self-love, I believe, begins with the idea and the truth of practicing honesty. And when I say honesty, I like to call it raw truth, raw honesty. It means we let go of the shame. Whatever we have done, mistakes, we accept it as it is. You know, what was done in the past was done in the past. Today is a brand new day. I cannot hold on to what I did in my past. Some of the things I did personally in my past during a certain time, some would say was not self-love. But at that moment, during that time period, knowing what I knew then, for me, I thought it was. Everything is different for everyone. An example of how things can change immediately. I like to use this example often. And some can say many things about this example. But I like to give the example of right and wrong. And it shows an expression of love as well, I think. If an individual, let's just use an example of a mother, goes into a store and robs that store to feed her children, it might be wrong in someone's eyes, but she is expressing love for her children by going in there to try to feed her children. For that moment, that was right for her. The next day, maybe that woman gets some money. She walks into the same store and buys food. That's also an expression of self-love, because she's feeding her kids. She's doing it the correct way, what some would say is the correct way. But underneath it, the foundation, when we lift up the illusion, what is the thread that goes through that experience? I think that the thread that goes through the experience is the love that the mother had for her child, for her children. She needed to feed them. She did what she did because she loved her children. So what is self-love? Self-love is the truth of who you are. You know, sometimes we try to cover up our past. But I think that your past, as they say in recovery, becomes an asset. You know, when I was in a recovery program, in a transitional housing program, I remember a moment that I was in a few months of recovery and I was walking towards the cafeteria. And at that point, I had absolutely nothing. I had no money. I had basically just maybe 2 or 3 outfits. And coming from the background that I had, you know, deep drugs and alcohol I was involved in. And this is why I went to the program, to change my life. I always wanted to look sharp. I always wanted to look good. So I had an individual offer me, a person who was interested in dating me, to buy me clothes, to buy me shoes, to buy me things so I can look better. But by accepting those gifts from that individual, going into a dating relationship with that individual to make myself look better on the outside, what was I doing? I was only adding a band-aid to the work that I really needed. And the thought that came to me as I was walking into that cafeteria is, no, Renee, you cannot do that today, because you have to heal. There was something empty within me. That would have been the easy way out. And for a moment, I would have been okay and would have been fine. But later on, I guarantee you that I still would have had to deal with the issue of self-love. I was trying to get something to make myself feel better. But what I decided to do was, the thought that came to me was, it's easy for you to get into a relationship with someone else. We break up with somebody, we go and we date somebody else, but have I ever taken the time to have a serious relationship with myself? And I think that that is the first and foremost thing we have to do, is have a relationship with ourselves. We have to learn to fill that void that is within us, that we're searching outside everywhere. Because there's nothing out there that can fill that void but that which we call God, that which we call love. For me, God is love. And some people also don't, when they think of God, they think of God outside, an experience outside of themselves. One of the best tools that I have found, and I teach some people, is if you don't understand what God is for you at this moment, make a list. Most of the times human beings can tell you what God is not. For some reason, we are capable of saying what something is not, or focusing on a negative. So in this example, what I would ask is, make a list. Make a list of what God is not for you. Now, draw a line, and on the opposite of each word you list, put down the opposite of that word. So, for example, if I listed God is not hate, opposite of hate for me would be love. If I put God is not judging, the opposite for that for me would be unconditional or non-judgment. So I make this list first of what God is not for me. Then I make a list of what the opposite of each one of those words I listed. Now, how do I begin to have the experience of bringing that self-love to me? The things that you listed that are the opposite of what God is not, that is how you begin to bring that experience forward. I begin to make choices based on those characteristics that I listed. I begin to take actions on those choices, on those characteristics that I listed. I begin to act in that will. That is when some people say, what is the will of God? When you begin to act in those characteristics, that's the will of God. That is God working through you. That's why we're here. We're here to individually express the divinity that is within each and every single one of us. And it's different for everybody. There's 7 billion people on this planet. There will be 7 billion ways to express what that divinity is. There is no one way. There are so many different ways. My way is only my way. I hope that some of this helps you. I hope that it teaches you that you have the power within you to know what that is, to know what God is. Love is a powerful tool. You are a powerful being. Begin to act consistently in this manner. Begin to share these characteristics. And I think that's another thing. Sometimes we start something and we don't continue it. Consistency is the key in creating the experience that you desire. Be consistent in your behavior. Be consistent in your words. Begin to think. Speak these new thoughts that you have. My husband and I tend to tell people many times when we're having this type of conversation that human beings have the tendency to think one thing, say another, and then act another way. And then they wonder, why is it that my life is the way it is? Why is it that nothing is working for me? well, it's not going to work. It will never work. You will continue to have chaos, drama, inconsistent experiences if you don't align to the truth of who you are and what you define as that divinity within you. What you need to do is begin to think, say, and act the same way. And when you begin to do that, life begins to transform for you. Life will change. It will not happen overnight. And sometimes it may be very uncomfortable. If we begin to act in those characteristics, sometimes there will be moments where what love asks you to do, you really won't want to do it. It's happened to me. But you know what? We have to recognize it. Don't resist it. The more you resist, the more the thought gains energy. The more you will have frustration. So begin to act in those characteristics. Begin, also I mentioned yesterday, a gratitude list. It is so important to have a gratitude list. If you don't do that, at least find things in your day that you can mention. But there is something in writing. There's something that when you bring that energy, focus it into your writing, you're bringing forth the invisible to the visible. And you have to do it consistently. Consistency is success. Success is defined by what it is you desire to experience. What is best for you. With that, I thank you for joining me today on Rene Love and Light, my YouTube channel. You can follow me on Twitter. You can also go to my Facebook page, which is Rene, R-E-N-E, Love, L-O-V-E, Light, L-I-G-H-T, and follow me on Facebook as well. And as I mentioned, soon my webpage, ReneLOVEnLIGHT.com, will be launching, and these videos, workshops, and other things will be on there. So hopefully today I gave you a gift. This helps me as well as hopefully helps you. Thank you, and may you be filled with love and light always, because that is who you are. God bless.